Hello, everyone. This is your girl Dupsy, and welcome back to another episode of She Means Business, the podcast where we talk about the real issues, the real numbers, and the real strategies that drive our economy. I'm so thrilled to have you joining me today. Well, lately, my DMs and emails have been flooded with these questions. Why is diesel so high? Is there no other way? Are we just stuck with these prices forever? And honestly, looking at the numbers today, with diesel hitting 1,950 and staring down the 2,000 naira mark, I totally get it. It feels like we're all just holding our breath, waiting for the next price hike to squeeze our businesses even harder. But you see, here's the thing that's been on my mind. We haven't always lived like this. We haven't always been like this. Now, if you were around in the 80s or 90s, you might remember what the Nigerian manufacturing landscape looked like back in the day. I remember Oshodi, not just as a market, but as a heartbeat, the very heartbeat of industry. I remember Enpee Industries, right there in Oshodi Sale, as we call it there, there's a bus stop there then. It was a textile giant that was always buzzing. I remember my Aunty Laitan, big shout out to her. She would buy Ankara straight from Enpee to resell. I'm very, I still remember all of that. I mean, business was moving because production was affordable. And it wasn't just Enpee in Lagos. Look across the whole country. We had the Kano textile mills. We had the bustling factories in Aba. We had Michelin and Dunlop making world-class tires in Port Harcourt and Ikeja. And then there was Bata then producing shoes. These were manufacturing giants. But here's the million-dollar question. What was powering all those massive factories back then? It wasn't diesel. Nobody, and I mean nobody, was using diesel to power industrial boilers and heavy machineries back then. No. They were using LPFO, low pour fuel oil, and its sibling, HPFO, high pour fuel oil. It was the lifeblood of our manufacturing giants, from the mills in Kano to the factories in Aba and Port Harcourt. It was cheap, it was local, and it worked. So where did it go? What happened to LPFO? So in response to all your questions about why energy costs are killing our businesses, I wanted to do this episode to bring us back to our roots. Okay? So today we are going to talk about what happened to LPFO, why it vanished from the conversation, and most importantly, now that we have the Dangote refinery running at full capacity, why nobody is talking about bringing LPFO back to save our industries. We're going to talk about all of that now. Now, for those of us asking the question, is LPFO a petrochemical product? Well, yeah. You're completely right in your thinking. LPFO is absolutely a petrochemical product. In fact, when you refine crude oil, the lighter stuff like petrol and aviation fuel comes off the top. The heavier, thicker, darker liquids that settle at the bottom, that is your fuel oil. That is LPFO and HPFO. And because it is a heavy residual product, it has historically always been much cheaper than diesel. You know, like I said earlier, it was the affordable lifeblood of our industries. But today, it's like LPFO has been wiped completely from our vocabulary. Everyone now is sweating over the price of diesel. Diesel has taken center stage, and businesses are suffocating under the cost of it. That's our reality now. So, for the purpose of those who don't know what LPFO or HPFO is and where it came from, let's go a little bit technical here, though in the simplest way, in a layman's way, so we can all understand it. First, let's clear up the chemistry. Like I said earlier, you are absolutely right to believe that LPFO is a petrochemical product, because it is. When crude oil goes into a refinery, it gets heated and separated. Okay? The light, highly valuable stuff floats to the top. And that is where you have your aviation fuel, that is Jet A1, your petrol, otherwise known as PMS, and your kerosene, otherwise known as DPK. Now, in the middle, that's where you get your diesel, otherwise known as AGO. But at the very bottom of that barrel is the heavy, thick, viscous residue. That is your LPFO, low pour fuel oil. And then HPFO, a high pour fuel oil. They are the tough, raw, high energy stuff. And because it's a residual product, like I said earlier, it has always been significantly cheaper than diesel. So the question is, why did we stop using it? Why did we stop using it? What is responsible for the shift? Well, I would say it was a mix of a few unfortunate realities in the country. All right. First, our local refineries in Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna went moribund. And when we stopped refining crude locally, we had to start importing our fuels, isn't it? Okay? And here's the tricky thing about LPFO. Because it is thick, because it is thick and heavy, it literally needs to be heated up, to be pumped and transported. Otherwise, it turns into sludge. So, importing it and shipping it and even storing it became a logistical nightmare for a country with failing infrastructure. Diesel, on the other hand, is lighter. It's much easier to import. In fact, you can put it in a tanker and drive it across the country. You have no issues. All right, so because we couldn't get local LPFO anymore, industries were forced to swallow the bitter pill and switch to diesel or gas just to keep the lights on. So over time, because diesel became the only reliable option, a shift happened. A shift clearly happened. Manufacturers also started importing smaller modern machines and generators that were strictly designed for diesel consumption. The heavy boilers designed for LPFO were either scrapped or abandoned. Most of them are still there. Nobody's using them anymore. They are condemned. So now, people have also asked, if LPFO is cheaper, why is everyone breaking the bank for diesel? Now, I am going to take us through 3 main reasons for this shift. Number 1, I'm going to call it the machinery evolution. The machinery evolution. Modern manufacturing machines and boilers are no longer built like the absolute tanks of the 80s. Okay? LPFO is incredibly thick. It literally has to be preheated just to flow through pipes before it can be burned. I've seen that thing firsthand. If it requires heavy maintenance and constant cleaning of the burners. I mean, as technology advanced, equipment manufacturers just simply shifted to systems, designed for cleaner, lighter fuels and diesel. Diesel, of course, which flow easily at room temperature. Diesel requires far less maintenance. All right. Then number two, we have the rise of natural gas. The rise of natural gas. In many industrial hubs all over the world, the true successor to LPFO wasn't actually diesel. It was piped natural gas. As the world pushed for lower emissions, industries that could access gas pipelines transitioned to gas because it's highly efficient, it burns much cleaner than LPFO, and it is incredibly cost effective. Okay, so that's part of the shift. And number 3, environmental regulations. LPFO is notorious for high sulfur content. It's highly sulfuric, so it burns dirty, producing thick black smoke and heavy emissions. So global and local environmental standards simply made it harder to justify the continuous burning of raw black oil. Now, let's quickly talk about the Dangote equation. Let's address the elephant in the room. All right. We have the Dangote refinery, a massive 650,000 barrel per day facility right here in Nigeria. Okay. Questions people have asked her: now that we have a refinery, why aren't they flooding the market with cheap LPFO for our industries? I equally ask that question. But you see, the straightforward truth and answer to that question is that modern complex refineries are actually designed to destroy LPFO. Yeah, they are built to destroy LPFO. Back in the days, in the old days, simpler refineries have a lot of this heavy residue left over. They have it. They can't crack it 100%. But you see, state-of-the-art facilities like Dangote, they have what we call specialized units, like a residual fluid catalytic cracker. It's built specifically to take that cheap, heavy that heavy bottom of the barrel sludge and crack it under intense heat and pressure to squeeze out more high-value petrol and diesel. So for a modern refinery, selling LPFO is like leaving lots of money on the table. And nobody wants to do that. They want to convert as much of that residue into expensive PMS and AGO as structurally possible. Another question people have asked is, can we bring it back? Can we bring it back? So is there a way we can reintroduce LPFO to help businesses cut costs? While it's a brilliant thought, rolling back the clock to LPFO is tough due to our modern realities. In fact, our modern industrial infrastructure simply isn't set up to handle the logistics of heating, transporting, and burning every black oil anymore. In fact, instead of looking backwards to LPFO, the real conversation we need to be having for our manufacturing giants or even for our businesses is about natural gas. If we want a fuel that is cheaper than diesel and highly efficient for heavy machinery, we need to aggressively push for the expansion of piped gas infrastructure and compressed natural gas for our industrial parks. That's the truth. That is the modern equivalent of what LPFO did for us in the 90s or in the 80s, or let's just say back in the days. LPFO served us well. LPFO built the manufacturing giants of our past. That's the truth. But the world of refining and machinery has moved on, unfortunately. If you want to bring back the days of Enpee in Oshodi, if we want the textile mills in Kano and the factories in Aba to roll back to life, we need cheaper industrial energy. Diesel, as it is today, is too premium. Diesel is too expensive to be the sole fuel for heavy manufacturing or for small businesses. It's too expensive. We need to start asking the right questions. We need to start asking the right questions. And then, we need to ask, can industries retrofit their current plants to accommodate LPFO again? Just for the purpose of, manufacturing. Can the government and the private sector collaborate to fix the transport and storage infrastructure needed for every fuel oils? If we can get cheaper, locally refined LPFO directly into the hands of our manufacturing giants, we can drastically cut down the cost of production. And cheaper production means cheaper goods. For Nigerians, more jobs and a stronger naira. That is going to happen. So let me stop here. But let's keep the conversation going. I want to hear from you. Are you in the manufacturing sector? What would a return to LPFO mean for your business? Do you think there should be LPFO powered generators for our homes and businesses? Please let me know in the comment section. Write me. You can send me an email, or you can send me a DM. Please, let's keep the conversation going. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Till next week when I come your way again, please keep grinding. Keep building, and remember, she means business. And so do you. Catch you on the next episode. Thank you.